Incredible though, the mud, the rocks, the debris flow came down out of the mountains where the fire was, towards the beach. We're between the mountains and the ocean, overflowing Montecito Creek and destroying everything in its path. At least 13, that number likely to go higher. Let's take you up top from the air to see this devastation. The wider view from this morning. First responders, the sheriffs described this as, quote, a World War I battlefield. Boulders, debris. They had to wade through knee-deep mud. Access to this area difficult, extremely difficult. It was still heavy rain. It was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, talk about rescues. Dozens were rescued from the air and from the ground. These dramatic pictures, a 14-year-old girl pulled out of a destroyed home after hours of searching. One of at least 4 homes that are completely wiped out by the boulders, by the mud, by the debris flow that came down that hill. 50 people were rescued via helicopter alone. The local authorities helped by the Coast Guard. Now take a look at some of the still photos. This is a courtesy of the Santa Barbara County Fire Department. I heard that they responded at one point this morning alone. 600 calls for help came in. Now remember, this is not a mandatory evacuation area. That's higher up into the foothills where the Thomas Fire burned. This was closer to the 101 voluntary evacuations. The conditions, as I mentioned, extremely difficult. For people who did survive this, it's something they'll, of course, never forget.
Well, you know, it all started at like 3 in the morning, and it was really scary. We have an 8-year-old in the house who was very frightened, has on hot bunk, and you couldn't see anything for hours because it was so dark outside. And finally the light started coming. We started seeing some help come. I think all of our friends that didn't live in the neighborhood started texting and calling the police and getting rescuers to us. So finally around 7 we saw rescuers, and they literally made their way to our door and said, you need to get out now.
The neighbor right across the street, the mud and water came right through her wall, knocked her wall down, and the mud came straight through. There was a lady staying at her house, and that lady got washed to the other side of the living room. The other neighbor then went over and saved her. So Jim, our other neighbor, all of the cars on our street that were in front of houses, they're all gone.
At least 3 homes were destroyed, knocked off their foundation by mud and debris. That happened on the 300 block of Hot Springs Road. There was also a gas explosion in the area, and numerous residents are unaccounted for in Montecito.
I was sleeping right up here, right up the street, and about 4 a.m. started hearing a rumbling. I couldn't tell if it was like a mountain coming down or water, or I just had no idea. And so we actually got our stuff and left because it just was so, like, you could feel the walls actually vibrating.
I came to the gate and my wife was ankle deep in mud, and our whole yard was under mud. The cars are surrounded by mud, and it is just coming down really heavily.
Wow, listen to those people. Now, these are images of ruined houses. As I mentioned, at least 4 overturned trees, massive boulders. This was about an hour ago. We're on Hot Springs Road. Again, this is between the 101, the beach, and the Thomas Fire burn area, the community of Montecito. Very graphic, very raw. The water still running down the street here. Those who live here, long gone. As we mentioned, the death toll at 13. No IDs yet. That number may go higher. An undetermined number of people are still missing. The sheriffs, the fire department said their priority right now is to find out if any of those people that are unaccounted for are alive and need to be rescued, or they're simply at other locations and haven't yet checked in with loved ones. But look at this. The water's still running down Hot Springs Road. There's local authorities. The National Guard is here. The Coast Guard is here. I mean, there's a massive rescue effort underway. There are still people up in the canyons that are being escorted out. So this is something that's going to be going on all night, and I'm sure into tomorrow. And in listening to the sheriff and to the firefighters, they say, yes, this was not a mandatory evacuation zone, but in their words, this is not an exact science. They do their best in telling people where to evacuate from. This was voluntary. People who had been through the fire said, what could be worse than that? Well, this is worse than that.